erstmal einen schönen guten Morgen von meiner Seite. Zum zweiten Mal will ich probieren, Ihnen etwas zu sagen über meine Vision, über wie eure Betriebsräte organisiert sein können. Ich werde das wieder auf Englisch machen, weil verschiedene unter euch haben mir gestern schon gesagt, ich könnte es aber auch auf Deutsch machen, mein Deutsch ist ganz gut. Für mich fühlt es nicht so gut an, ich bin nur dann einfach sicherer, wenn ich das auf Englisch machen kann. Und denn, ja, dies ist eine Bildung über interkulturelle Kontakte und deswegen das auf Englisch machen ist eigentlich auch Teil von was wir hier untereinander lernen müssen. Also ich werde nochmals mal der Ad-Interim-Dolmetscher bedanken für seine Unterstützung und wir schalten auf Englisch. So for this presentation this morning, what I've been asked to talk to you about is to give you some ideas about the challenges and the requirements that you have as European Works Council members to try and move forward, with a specific accent on the intercultural aspect. I mean, I could have done a different presentation on part of the discussions you had yesterday on how to improve your information, consultation rights, etc. A number of the things that I'll talk about today would also serve that particular purpose. But the accent for this presentation is more on overcoming those cultural differences that we have, that we talked about yesterday. And despite all that, try to move forward. My approach is a very practical one, based on, again, personal experience in the European Works Councils that I was a member from, and what I've seen in other European Works Councils throughout the years that I've been working as a trainer and as an expert on how to organize your European Works Council. So a few practical elements, I think. I will be shorter than yesterday, I'll try to, because there's a second speaker. Of course, once I get started talking, I know that I can be a bit long, but just pull the brakes if I take too long. So, well, the challenges obviously are multiple. I mean, we've seen it yesterday, and it's not just about the heterogeneities that you have, the different cultures, nationalities, languages, etc. There's so many other elements that make it very difficult to make a European Works Council efficient. Again, problems that you also see sometimes at the national level, but which are enlarged, even more important at the European level because of this multiplicity, diversity of people sitting around the table. The heterogeneities we talked about yesterday, but another element that certainly is inhibiting the possibility from a European Works Council to be strong and efficient is, well, among other things, the limited role of the trade unions. In the new recast directive now, there is just a reference to trade unions being possibly experts to support the special negotiating body. But that's all you have. In the first directive there was no reference at all to trade unions even. So that's already an element of where you could find coherence which you don't really have. As we saw yesterday, quite a big part of the members of European Works Councils could be non-trade unionists. So an extra problem to organize some coherence in the group. You're constantly faced with changes in the group as well. As these multinational companies, what typifies them is that they keep changing, they keep acquiring new businesses, closing down others, selling off parts of the company, big mergers going on. Now that the economy is pulling back again, well, probably we're going to face new mergers, new acquisitions, which pose an extra problem for your European Works Council. Once you think that you've become quite coherent and efficient, etc., all of a sudden everything changes. Look at the group that I come from, Fortis. We were, after say 8 years of activity, we thought that we were really moving forward and we had really started to construct something efficient. All of a sudden everything explodes and you're faced with a completely different situation. And my colleagues now from the bank side, who were in charge of this European Works Council, who thought they were the king of the world, are now just a very small part of a much bigger group, which is called BNP Paribas today. So the world changes very quickly, which again is a big problem to get organized and make sure that you have an efficient body. You don't have any negotiation rights, the rights are limited, that too we talked about yesterday. If you come to the European Works Council expecting that you're going to have much more power than you have at national level, or at least as much power as at national level if you come from countries with a strong tradition of social relations, you will be quite disappointed. Some people come from countries where they don't have anything at all and think that the European Works Council will solve all their problems. That's where you will negotiate better salaries, better working conditions, etc. You don't have that power. So, again, disappointment, disillusions, and probably people who will not really want to cooperate anymore. The representativity is also a problem. Talked about that yesterday as well. How many of those big groups are divided in very, very small entities. How representative are you if you have to represent, say, 100,000 people, or maybe less, even 50,000 people, spread over 60 different companies in 18 countries? You can't have everybody on board. You can't have a representative for at least every company, maybe not even for every country. So there too is a problem of how well do you represent the entire workforce. You're supposed to represent collectively the interest of all the workers. But if half the companies don't even have a direct representative in your European Works Council, how representative are you? So it's a matter of organizing, thinking about how do I make sure that everybody is on board, is informed about what we do here. A lot of problems to go through all that. Even at national level, sometimes, for some countries, representing those smaller companies is not such a problem. You have, in Germany, the Konzernbetriebsrat, Gruppenbetriebsrat, Austria is, I think, more or less a similar system. Belgium, we don't have that. The first time I saw my colleagues from the insurance branch working for the same company was in the European Works Council. We don't have a central works council. So these contacts, which seem to be very natural in some countries at national level, well, in other countries are not further at all. So that too takes some time to get to know the people, to make something, to understand each other, to try and collaborate in some way. Communication problems, referring to the heterogeneities of yesterday, obviously language is one of those major things that you need to overcome. You can't expect everybody to speak one and the same language. Everybody automatically thinks about English, probably. Well, if you're going to have French representatives in your European Works Council, I can guarantee that they will be the first to tell you, I'm not going to speak English. So, I mean, this too is something that needs to be discussed, and you need to find a good balance between allowing most people to speak their own language, and on the other hand, probably not having all languages on board, because you might end up with more interpreters than participants, than members in your European Works Council. And these language problems make it even more difficult to understand each other, not just, understand what you say, but understand what you stand for, what your position is, what's in your mind. The constant turnover, again, something I already mentioned yesterday. Almost every meeting there's at least one new person. There's always elections, there's always somebody pulling back from the European Works Council, a new member stepping in, a deputy member who comes from the first time. And again, you have to make sure these people get on board, understand what's been going on, know a bit about the history of your European Works Council, etc., etc. So another problem that needs to be overcome. And then, last example, but you probably could come up with many more. It seems like impossible. But certainly also the management approach makes a big difference. If you have a management that is rather positive towards your European Works Council and seems to indeed inform you in the correct way, be more or less cooperative in organizing the meetings, etc., then you will have better chances for success. If you have a management which is very negative, which is very often the case, where you have to fight every time and time again to get an extra meeting, to get the information on time, to get written information, etc. Well, you're simply working so much on that you don't have the energy anymore to internally work on getting a body which is coherent, where people understand each other, know each other, and that is very important on the other hand. So, it looks mission impossible. It looks like the Sisyphus job that you are pushing a ball up a hill, and sometimes you feel it's going in the right direction, we're almost there, and then all of a sudden something happens, the group changes, or there's a discussion, a conflict inside the group, and the ball rolls back down and you have to start over and over again. Is it really mission impossible? Well, I don't think so. I'm quite convinced that there's a huge potential in the European Works Council, and it is possible to overcome all those differences, all those internal difficulties, and to move forward, to become really efficient and professional and coherent as a body. A German university a couple of years ago formed a study about the quality of the European Works Councils, how efficient are they, and they came up actually with 4 levels of strength of European Works Councils, if you might say. They typified the European Works Council, and I'll leave it up to you to see if your European Works Council fits in one of the categories. First category they come up with was purely symbolic EWCs. These are Works Councils that meet maybe once a year. Everybody comes, no contacts beforehand, no shared program, no real preparation. They just come to hear what management has to say, they go for a nice dinner, and then they go back home, and nothing else happens. And for the rest of the 365 days until the next meeting, nobody ever contacts each other. Quite a few European Works Councils are still in that position. The one I talked to you about yesterday, Faurizio one, a subcontractor from Peugeot Group, that was really just a works council composed of little islands, literally. Little national islands, where people per country more or less sit together, but they didn't ever talk to each other, didn't trust each other at all. You can understand sometimes, in that case, in their case, a couple of years ago, there had been a major relocation from activities from France to Eastern Europe, and then of course you have in this European Works Council, Czech representatives, Slovak representatives, Polish representatives, who were the receivers of those activities. So the French thought, these guys have taken our jobs. And the Czech thought, they're going to want to take the jobs back. So no communication, no relation at all, no common goal, no discussions, nothing. They have a European Works Council, a very symbolic one. Quite useless. And I hope that through the training that I did with them, they understand that there is a way to move forward. The second category they identified in that study was what they called passive European Works Council, where you have some interaction, some relations start to be created between, let's say, the cultural groups, for instance, you know, the contacts between Austrians and Germans in your case, or between the Italians and Spaniards, people who feel related in some way, those cultural groups start to interact in some way, but most of the time, actually, the European Works Council is still seen as just the information provider. They expect to hear their information that they don't have at national level, but further don't do much about it. So it's still quite passive, but it starts to develop, and trust starts to be developed between the levels. The third level, and fortunately quite a few European Works Councils with some years of history behind them have evolved into this level, is what they call the project-based EWC, where you have a lot of interactivity between all the members. Everybody is in contact, common projects are set up, common goals are decided, working groups can be created. So a lot of interactivity, a lot of exchange between all the members. There's trust between the members, there's an exchange of information of what they have at local level, etc. So they start to be really, really very, very interactive between themselves. There's still no real positive attitude on the management side. It's more of an information rather than really hearing what the ideas of the European Works Council are. It starts there. First, make sure internally you get well